各位现场的与会来宾，大家早安！我们即将要开始我们今天 DevDay Asia 的议程，我是今天议程的主持人，我是 Grace 黄志杰。那么今天呢，有一系列精彩的课程，还有演讲的安排。在会议开始之前呢，我们提醒大家以下几件事情。So good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Grace Huang. I will be the MC for the event proper. Before we proceed, just a few housekeeping reminders for you. 首先呢，在会议期间，请各位将您的手机转为震动或者是静音的模式。So first of all, please switch your mobile phones to silent or vibration mode. 除此之外呢，在活动期间进出会议室，请各位随身佩戴识别证。And also during the event, please wear your badge at all times when entering and exiting the conference rooms. 第三呢，本次的大会出席并且填写问卷里呢，就可以并且填写问卷就可以获得不同的问卷好礼。我们今天的问卷礼将在下午3点钟开放填写，各位呢只要扫描您识别证背后的 QR code 就可以填写问卷了。那么在5点之后持完成的萤幕截图还有识别证，可以到我们 Track D， 也就是我左手边呢前的柜台来兑换，就可以获得我们今日大会的问卷礼哦。那么第一天呢，我们的问卷礼是纪念 T-shirt， 第二天纪念毛巾，而第三天则是旅行袋，数量有限，所以请大家呢务必来把握。So third, attend the conference daily and complete the survey, and you'll be eligible to receive different gifts on each day. Today's survey will be available for completion at 3 p.m. So simply scan the QR code on the back of your badge to fill out the survey. And after 5 p.m. each day, show the screenshot of the completed survey and also your badge to the front desk of Track D to exchange for today's survey gifts. So gifts include a commemorative T-shirt on day 1, a commemorative towel on day 2, and a travel bag on the final day. Gifts are limited in quantity and available on a first-come, first-served basis. So please do seize the opportunity. 除此之外呢，我们本次的大会另外也有活动的限定好礼哦。我们在每一堂课程前后各15分钟内呢，请门口的工作人员扫描识别证正面的 QR code。完成特定的条件，就可以在5点50之后持识别证到 Track D 的柜台来兑换，就可以获得微风专属的风格袜，或者是限定的电竞滑鼠垫。同样的，也是数量有限，我们兑换完为止哦。So there are also exclusive gifts for each session. Within 15 minutes before and after each session, have the staff at the entrance scan the QR code on the back of your badge and complete the requirements. After 5:50 p.m., show your badge at the front desk of Track D to exchange for exclusive gifts, such as the Breeze-style socks and also a gaming mouse pad. So the gifts are limited in quantity and available on a first-come, first-served basis. 那么想要参加 Hands-on Lab 课程的来宾，也请在 Track D 的柜台前登记。我们每一堂课程都是有名额的限制，所以呢，欢迎大家及早报名。And the participants who are interested to participate in the Hands-on Lab, please register at the front desk, also in front of Track D. So each session has a limited number of spots, so please do register early. 最后呢，我们在会议室外面设置了开发者的聊天吧，所有的讲师呢将在演讲结束的第一个休息时间，在聊天吧跟各位近距离的互动，所以欢迎大家呢把握机会，在休息的时间来前往聊天吧。A developer lounge is set up outside the conference room where speakers of each session will interact with developers during the first break after their presentations. So please to take the opportunity to have face-to-face interactions with the speakers during the break. 除此之外呢，我们在1楼呢也有开发者的聚落，2楼设有微软合作的伙伴摊位，来展出实地应用的解决方案。那在2个楼层之间呢，也设有天龙书房，非常欢迎各位呢可以前往来参观了解。So additionally, there is a developer community area on the first floor and also Microsoft partner booths on the second floor showcasing practical applications. So you can also take the opportunity to visit the Tianlong workshop between the first and the second floor to have a look. 所以以上呢是我们今天要跟大家宣布的事项。那除此之外呢，也要跟大家提醒一下哦，我们今天的大会是未提供午餐的，所以各位建议的用餐地点呢，分别有信义区的微风南山以及信义威秀的商圈。So a lunch is not provided in the conference today, so please do help yourselves to lunch. And there are restaurants in the surrounding area, so please do take time to enjoy lunch and come back on time for the afternoon session. 那最后呢，我们如果大家想要提问的话，可以在我们每一个场次的时候呢，扫描荧幕上面的 QR code 来填写线上的表单。各位的提问呢，将会在会后提供给我们的讲师。So if you'd like to raise any questions for our speakers during each session, please scan the QR code that we'll be presenting and projecting onto the screen, and we'll submit your questions to our speaker. 好，以上呢就是我们这一次的场次要跟大家来宣布的事项。那么紧接着呢，我们就进入到今天的主要的议程。那么各位可以在我们的荧幕上面看到我们今天早上的议程安排。So on the screen here, you will see this is our program for the morning up until lunch. So our first session is titled Learnings from the Fast-Paced AI Adoption in Asia, Generative AI by Mark Souza. 那么我们今天的第一场专题演讲呢，要跟大家谈的是 Learnings from the Fast-Paced AI Adoption in Asia. 那么将会由微软全球资深副总裁暨亚洲首席技术长 Mark Souza 来演讲。Mark 在微软呢拥有超过30年的经验，在新兴技术还有 AI 的趋势、全球的这个观点当中呢，具备独到的见解。So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me to welcome Mr. Mark Souza to the stage. 让我们一起欢迎 Mark。
Copilot 这么多新的东西。
And let me extend my welcome to all of you to DevDay's Asia. And thank you for not only joining us, but taking time to invest in yourself in learning. I've been with Microsoft for more than 30 years. Most of those years were back in Redmond, Washington, USA, as part of the engineering organization. As first part of the data and AI group, building the products that you use today, and then as part of the cloud platform. And just a little over a year ago, I packed up, moved 10,000 kilometers to here in Asia, and now I'm the Chief Technology Officer of Microsoft for the Asia-Pacific region. That means every day I get to wake up and work with our great customers across this region, designing, building, and deploying generative AI solutions. So for today, I'm going to use those learnings, and I'm going to share, because some of the best and most complex Gen AI solutions are being built in this part of the world. Matter of fact, there's more generative AI solutions being deployed here in Asia than the Americas and in Europe. So we are leading the world in designing and building and deploying AI solutions. I'm going to start off with a landscape of what's going on with generative AI, specifically tailored to Asia, and then most of the time I'll spend on the specific learnings. We are in an unprecedented time. With technology waves, there's been several in our past 30 years. Going back to client-server, when we moved from the mainframe to distributed computing. Then we moved to the internet, where the browser became the face of the world. Then we moved to the cloud adoption, then the phone, and now generative AI. Every technology wave, the adoption was 10 times faster than the previous one. With generative AI, it's 100 times faster than any other technology wave prior to this. It's whether it's the consumer, our students, our teachers, whether it's your business professionals like yourself with productivity exploitation, whether it's your team. There are things today where you can do a meeting, show up 15 minutes late and quickly catch up because generative AI is going to help you. Or immediately after the meeting, you have a summary, an analysis, and action items all documented for you. Or what many people are doing, applying Gen AI to your specific industry to help you have return on investment and impact your business. But it's not only the adoption that is at a fast pace. The technology itself is moving at the fastest pace than any other technology before. Just the GPT alone, the last 18 months, is 600% faster and 12x reduction in cost in just 18 months. So the question is, the reason most people wait when new technology wave comes, they wait for maturity, they wait for speed, and they wait for lower cost. And at these rates, how long do you want to wait? I suspect, since most of you here today, you're already on the train. But if not, and it's your decision, I suspect you'll be jumping on this train sooner rather than later. So let's give another example and go through the history real quick. It really, even though AI actually has been around for many years, generative AI really took off with the release of ChatGPT less than 2 years ago, November 2022. All right, the first time where you were able to, using natural language, ask questions, and it didn't come back with just links. It came back looking inside those links with answers, and then you could have a conversation with it. This technology has changed the game for us. So that's when it all started, less than 2 years ago. So let's move forward just 4 months after that. It went from text-based to image and video-based, where you can now show an image, in this case, showing a picture of eggs and flour, and asking questions like, show me some recipes I can make from the items in this image. In just a short period of time, we added text and image, as well as to text processing, for this natural language interaction. And then let's fast forward 1 year after that. That same exact prompt, that same exact query that you just saw, that ran on the largest language model in the world, that was trained with 1.5 trillion parameters, running on the highest GPUs with InfiniBand, is now running on the form factor of a phone in 128K. This, ladies and gentlemen, is technology at a rapid pace that we've never, ever seen before. So let me give you a couple more examples. I'm going to take GPT-4, and a few months later, we released GPT-4o, or GPT-4 Omni. In that several months, twice the speed, half the cost. Twice the speed, half the cost in just a few months. 21 different languages embedded and supported, safety by design, and it went from a text-based system to a multimodal system model where image, video, as well as text are all being analyzed within the same model as well. That's advancement. And then again, SLM is becoming a very big part of this, where you can now run this same technology on the smallest form factors, not with the largest technology, GPUs, but you can run it on a small form factor with significantly high quality. And we'll talk about choices you have now when it comes to design of when to use an SLM, when to use a LLM, when to use a combination of them. We're going to spend the next 20 minutes talking about that. So the landscape is done. We talked about the advancements in the speed. That will continue. This will exceed the Moore's Law, for those who remember the speed of chipsets doubling every 18 months. This will exceed that significantly. So now I'm going to change and talk about design, build, and deploy. and we're going to go down to a deeper technical level. This slide I'm showing you here, we could spend 2 days on, and we're going to spend about 20 minutes on it. So you do want to buckle up, but what I'm going to leave you is, I'm going to leave you with some tips. And these tips, you're going to be able to plant the seed for the next 3 days and attend sessions and learn more. Okay? So let me alienate you with this slide. The top part of the slide, these 3 boxes up top, okay, those are design considerations. Things like, what model do I use? Do I use multiple models? How do I process against that model? So that's the top part. And the bottom horizontal lines, these are best practices or recommendations that you want to apply to any design that you choose. I can't cover all of this today, so I'll cover the design options up top, and I'll cover optimization. But you should know that things like skilling, I understand you're here today, so you understand skilling. Things like center of excellence, security and safety, and responsibility AI, you'll be learning about these things over the next 3 days, and they're all significantly important as well. Okay, so let's start with model customized approaches. Now, many of you know this, so I'll just try to leave you with a little tip or best practice for each one. There's several ways to process against a model, all right, or choose which model you want to use. All right, from left to right, you could use a foundational model that already exists, like the GPT model. All right, and you can you can get into a prompt and ask a question. Now, it's called prompt engineering for a reason. All right, do not settle that the prompt that you enter will give you the best result. You should use it as a baseline and try different prompts. That's what prompt engineering is about. And the most important tip I'm going to leave you today in my 30 minutes is this. Entering your data into a model, the right data, the right amount of data, the quality of data is the most important thing you can do to have the best generative AI solution implemented in your environment. Data, the right quality of data is the most important thing you can do, and we'll touch on that a little bit more. So speaking of, we'll look at RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation. This is when you start applying your data into the prompt. Okay. Again, the right amount of data, all right, and the right data into the prompt. That's one option. Or you could apply your data and change the model. You could fine-tune it, rebuild the index of the model. All right. Now, if you're going to either put your data into the prompt, all right, that's relatively low cost up front, but the prompt's going to be very large. All right, when a prompt is large, it puts it into tokens. Think of this as little trains, and tokens equal cost. So if you have a large prompt, large amount of tokens, a large amount of cost. If you fine-tune the model, you have to pay money up front to actually rebuild that index. There's a cost to that. All right, but you might reduce the cost of individual prompts. So if you're running a prompt that's a monthly end processing prompt, as in you run it once a month, maybe you don't need to fine-tune your model, all right, and that would be your lowest cost. But I have a customer here in Asia that does 180 million prompts a month. And that many prompts a month, by fine-tuning the model and lowering the cost per prompt, it was worth their investment to fine-tune the model. And on the right-hand side, you can actually retrain the entire model, not just the index, but retrain the entire model. And this is what we call a custom model. And we're going to now drill into this a little bit more. Again, to retrain the entire model takes GPUs, takes cost up front. All right, but there's reasons why you want to be able to do this. For example, there might be a demand for specificity, which means simply, I need to customize this model for my business. Maybe it's language dependent. All right, for example, the government of India wanted to roll out an application to every person in India. Well, there's 21 different languages in India. Most models support maybe 1 or 2 languages for India. So to be able to roll it out, they needed to create models that supported the other language. They had to retrain the entire model, create a customized model for language. Or you may want to specifically do it for your industry. All right? For example, maybe we're doing insurance. All right? And as an insurance company, I want to sell you insurance for your property, for your house. All right? And you want to buy insurance from me. But we have to go through a risk management assessment to figure out the cost of that insurance. There's 2 types of data I need for this insurance. I need public data. Based off where you live, I need to know the weather. I need to know whether disasters happen, looking into the past, tornadoes, okay, hurricanes, tsunamis, looking for is there a history of disasters. And then I need to know private data, things about you that are not in models today. All right? Maybe I need to know where you live, obviously. I need to know maybe how much money you make and things about you that we do not want to put into a model specifically. We want to keep that private and protected. So we might turn around and create a SLM with the private data and then use the large language model that already exists for the public data, combine them in the same solution. Okay? So if you are going to create a custom model, all right, here's some things to watch out for. And the most important is, back to this point I've talked to you before, data, the right data. You can actually make incorrect answers by applying the wrong data or not enough data. All right, let me give you an example of not even models. Let's say I'm an expert at making chips, and you want to make a decision, so you come to me and ask me questions about chip manufacturing. And I give you this much information. But I shouldn't have gave you this much information, but I gave you this much information. Based off that much information, you make a decision. Is your decision right? Probably not. Or at least not the highest quality. That's the same concept when it comes to applying data into a model. All right? You don't give it this much data, you give it the right data, and so the answers will come back with less biases and higher quality. All right? Not only does the data and the quality matter, but if you have your own model, now you have accountability. You have to store that model and manage that model. You have to secure that model. You're accountable for the responsibility AI of that model, and so please attend sessions later this week about responsibility AI. That's extremely important. And then you have to keep that model current. Remember, data changes, and as data changes outside your model, you might have to retrain your model. We are retraining GPT constantly, all the time, as the world's encyclopedia changes every day. All right, so let's walk through a set of steps or best practices, how you would go through and make these decisions by deploying your model. And let's focus on customized model. All right? First of all, you need a use case that requires a customized model. If you're just asking a question to GPT that's already in the world's encyclopedia embedded into a foundational model, do you need to create your own model? The answer is no. All right? But if you go back to that use case, whether it's language specific or private data or specific to your business, there's a use case for that. All right? Then you create a customized model based off the use case. So first of all, you need a use case that requires a customized model. All right? Then, this is very important, you want to establish a baseline. All right? So maybe what you do is you enter a set of queries into prompt or RAG into a model and get a set of results. So you have a set of, not only use cases, but you have a set of queries or prompts that you want. All right? You actually ask the questions, and that's your baseline. All right? And from that, you're going to build off that baseline and improve it. So the next step is, where does the baseline fall short? Is it too high cost? All right? Are the quality of the answers what I'm expecting to get? And based off that, now you customize a model with data. Again, the right data, all right, and you build the model. And then you constantly continue to evaluate and iterate on that against the original baseline, changing the baseline and always trying to improve it. Prompt engineering means exactly that. All right? When we deliver software at Microsoft, we're not satisfied after we ship a product. We continuously improve on that product, and you'll continuously improve on your experience with Gen AI by continually evaluating, all right, your prompts, your queries, and continue to enhance. All right, let's now talk about a third option, hybrid. And this is something that we do here in Asia quite a bit, more than any place else in the world, because we have more custom models here in Asia than any in the world. Most of the reason is we have more languages, all right, but also we have more needs and we have more developers. 66% of the developers in the world are right here in Asia Pacific. And so we're moving very quickly as well, building solutions. So let's take an example, all right? And in this case, what you're doing is a query's coming in from the left-hand side, okay? Query's coming in on the left-hand side. And that query may go to one of set of models or intents that I build. So you can actually build multiple intents. This is a real architecture that we built for a customer in Japan. All right? So maybe one line is I use a foundational model, and I just enter it into GPT-4. Another solution is maybe I create a custom model, and I go to my custom model, or a combination of models. Maybe I go to a custom model with my private data, retract the result, feed that data into a foundational model. All these are design options that you have. And in this case, this is exactly what's happening. The user query comes in, all right? It turns around and does a intent detection. That means it interprets the query. And then it turns around and says, oh, I know what you want. You want to go to the foundational model. Here's the categorization, and you go there. Oh, I know you want to go to this private model, and you go there. And now here's what you can actually do. You can use multiple SLMs to solve your problem. You don't need to use one big LLM to solve your issues. All right? In the case of intent detect, I might use a small language model. And it comes in, all right, maybe the data comes from a small language model and I need to feed it into a larger language model. Maybe I have to rebuild my query. Maybe I'll use an SLM to build my query for me. All right? Then I turn around and validate that query. I might use a large language model for that. And then I execute it and get the result back. All right? Now, a lot of you are developers. I have whenever I get in front of developers, I tell myself I have to show at least one slide with code on it because that's what, developers. So here's my slide with the actual code the real code we snip it for this solution. All right? So the first piece of code actually does the intent detection. It actually does the categorization, classification. It actually says query equals, you're 200. I'm going to send you to the foundational model. And then the next piece of code actually now builds, just decides that I want to use a web-based search. In this case, the big query key. All right, and here's the code to actually do that. And I might even add some of my own data to it as well. All right, maybe I add my own machine learning algorithm to it as well. And then here's the code to submit that to the large language model, and then to send the results back to the user. Okay? So hopefully you see a good example of how multiple models could be part of your design. Not everything has to be that complicated. It can be much simpler than that. But I'm showing you that these things can be done. There are options that you do have. So let's talk about optimization now. All right? Because now that we chose a model or a design, we want to make sure that you optimize up front. Back in the days of early cloud, when people adopted cloud, they started building cloud apps, and they went back and optimized later. All right? That's a painful exercise. So you want to optimize up front. Back to that baselining that I talked about. So there's 3 types of optimization, all right, approaches that we could take. One is interaction. And it's exactly what you think it is, interaction. Things like prompt engineering, all right, setting a baseline, trying a different prompt. Things like caching results. All right, maybe something that's going to looks like a database technology. All right, caching results, especially for prompts that are run multiple times, can improve performance. Performance, also can reduce cost. All right, things like that. Maybe chaining or batching, taking something very complex and breaking it into smaller batching components, make it easier. AI grounding is basically RAG, the right data. All right? Again, applying the right data. And I gave you an example of that. And then many models, we talked about many models as well. All right? Maybe I don't need an LLM, maybe I need an SLM. And the difference is significant. All right? For an LLM, especially the largest ones in the world, there's billions and billions or trillions of parameters built against these large language models. All right? For large language models, it'll cost more money to fine-tune it, obviously. And you'll need the highest end GPUs, all right, with the latest technology and high-speed networking in order to process that. A small language model could be processed with significantly less high-end CPUs. I showed you an example where it actually could run on a phone. So which one do you want to pay for? Now, if you go with a small language model, are you going to get the same quality results? Of course not. Question is it good enough? And that will be part of your decision. So that's why you could use multiple models in the same solution. Here's a picture that shows, all right, on the left-hand side, that's basically prompt engineering or RAG. Basically, you're not doing anything with the model on the left-hand side. You're putting the data into a prompt, okay, into a query, and all you do is basically pay a token count. All right, let's say it's Azure OpenAI. It already runs being managed by a cloud vendor. Okay, so you don't have to worry about that. You have to worry about token count. Tokens equal cost. That's pretty simple. Now you decide on the right-hand side you want to fine-tune a model. Any model. Could be Azure OpenAI, or it could be Mistral, could be Meta. All right, there's up front, there's a gray bar that shows you there's a cost to fine-tune. You just have to sit there and you have to run it and fine-tune the model, rebuilding the index. So there's a cost up front. Then you have to host your model, that's the green box, all right, somewhere, maybe on-prem, back in a cloud platform. You need to host that model, secure it. You can see the token count in blue, much smaller now. All right, so you pay an upfront cost, but token count is smaller now. All right, so you turn around, depending on how many times you run that prompt, you may be saving money or not. But that's kind of the logic that you're going to want to walk through, all right, when deciding cost and optimization. Okay, so that was hopefully a few tips. All right, obviously, having the right skills in your organization to do this is important. That's why you're here. AI Center of Excellence is a very good best practice in your organization. This is not a governance committee. This is a committee to share learnings and best practices. I highly recommend, and I love IT, to put IT on it, but also put line of business users on it who understand the use cases. All right? I can't emphasize enough about security and responsibility AI, so please attend sessions and learn about that today as well. All right. So how will you be successful? What can I leave you would be successful? From what I see, and I've worked on hundreds over the last 14 months or so, it starts with a leader-led. You, the people in this room. You're here for a reason. You're here to take it back to your companies, all right, or support your customers, and be the leader to make sure that you take these learnings and you apply it into your organization, especially things around security, responsibility AI, optimization, high quality of entering data. All right, you have to take that back. All right, be the leader. Maximize use of data. Again, it's the biggest tip I'm leaving with you today. The right data, right quality of data will make all the world of the difference. Okay? The right data. And lastly, it is a culture change. All right? You're going to implement solutions, and not just going to freelance implement solutions. You're going to implement solutions based off return on investment. Whether it's productivity, whether it's customer contact, all right, whether it's a line of business solution, you're going to implement it based off that. That's a cultural change. The idea is to save money and to move more quickly. All right, so it's a cultural change, and you as leaders are going to make this happen. All right, there's a company, J.P. Morgan Chase, a financial institution in New York. The CEO declared, I want to be the best AI financial company in the world. That type of leadership from the top down was bought in, and now they're moving quicker than most other companies. That type of thing is important to be successful. So, Microsoft, we make this platform. We're very proud of the platform. The platform is critical to your success. All right? Somebody has to make sure that it's secure. All right? So you don't have to go out and buy all the GPUs yourself. All right? You can rent them because how many do you buy? How much money do you outlay? All right? So the platform is important. But it's all of you that really make it happen. So thank you very much for coming today, and enjoy your next 3 days.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mark. Thank you for your insights. 我们接下来呢要进入到我们今天的下一个主题哦，延续刚刚的内容，我们来谈的是 AI for developers. So we'll move on to our next keynote, AI for developers. 那么这个场次呢将会有3位讲师哦 We'll hear from 3 speakers in this session. The first of which is Mr. Dan Stevenson, who is Senior Director of Copilot Extensibility Ecosystems at Microsoft. 那么另外2位讲师呢，也快速的为各位介绍一下。我们另外呢也有这个来自于硕网资讯股份有限公司的邱仁店总经理。So our next speaker will be J.D. Chiou, CEO of Intumit, and then we will hear from Alan Zhang, Senior Director of Pegatroncorp. 第3位则是张森浩，和硕联合科技的资深经理。So with that, let me give the floor to Dan. 我们一起掌声欢迎 Dan.
Whoops. 好，早安，早安。哦，太大声。早安，搞炸。好，我是微软 Dan Stevenson。我很高兴看到你们在那个 DevDay 会议。这个是我的第6个 DevDay 会议。每年都比去年好，对不对？然后我记得我们2019在那个等一下中研研究院。然后我和我的团队，我的微软 Teams 的团队，我们介绍了新的 Teams 的平台，做 APP， 很久以前。然后我们今年不说 Teams 平台，我们说 Copilot， 我们说 GPT， 我们说 Azure AI， 很多新的东西。你们可能知道我是微软的 Teams 的主管的 founder， 然后你可能知道我是微软 Teams 亚洲工程师的老板。的时候，因为我要快告诉你们，我有新的工作。我现在是微软 Copilot 的世界生态系工程的总监。然后你们可能知道我去年说一点点中文，然后会听到我今年要说还有一点点中文。我的目标是说10%、05%的中文。然后不好意思，人工智慧的句子很难，然后我必须说英文。So now I will switch to English because AI is a little bit difficult to talk about. It's okay. No, please, no applause. Wait until the end. Okay. So we are at an amazing moment, as Mark was just telling us. It is truly a once in a generation, I would say once in several generations moment, a revolution for us. And we are now finally at the frontier where computers understand us. Computers can help us reason and do work. They are coming to us. We are not going to the computers. It's because of the power of AI that's enabling that. Now, I had the privilege in Microsoft Teams as one of the founding engineering leaders to see something built from the ground up, and I feel very fortunate, as should we all, to see something new being built from the ground up. One of the things that we often talk about, though, is where is the real business value coming from? Because let's be honest, you can only summarize so many emails or catch up on so many meetings or translate so many documents, although my kids do a lot of that. The real value comes from connecting these AI models, as Mark was talking about, these AI capabilities with your own data, with your own systems. I'm going to show you one example of that. This is an app that my team built with Air India. They're an airline. They are get that going. They're the flag carrier for India. And we built a flight operations intelligent agent for them. They can ask, using natural language, about flight status, delays, what's going on in their internal system or in their operational systems, giving them up-to-the-minute natural intelligence without having to open up another app or figure out some complex query language. They just talk to the system, and it talks back to them. And in fact, they can bring up a little bit of UI, bring up some details, and then maybe even create an email or something from this system that they need to go ping some people who maybe are responsible for some flight delays, which we've all been on the receiving end of. So it's a great example of using what we actually call Copilot Extensibility to bring AI to life for a business app. How do we actually get there? Well, let me talk through that, and I'll teach you over the next 10 minutes or so a little bit about the building blocks, and then I'm going to have two of my colleagues from the industry here in Taiwan come up and talk about their examples as well. So AI really comes, the AI revolution we're seeing really comes from three primary innovations. One is the universal interface. Right now it's typing. It's natural language, but it's typed. As Mark was saying, we're bringing in vision into these models. It's pretty much around the corner where we're going to have speech, not just speech out, but speech in. The computer, the interface, the natural interface is coming to us. The second key innovation is memory and context. That's having a big enough memory window, which Mark also mentioned, such that I can reason over something, or the system can reason over something sufficiently complex, sufficiently long-lived. And then the third is the actual reasoning engines and the orchestration around that, and what we're able to do to create much more sophisticated apps. Now, Microsoft, the way we've built this in terms of user-facing solutions is what we call the Copilot stack. And I'm going to walk you through, very briefly, the Copilot stack from bottom to top, and then we're going to spend a little extra time at the top talking about extensibility, which is how you, as developers, can build your own apps on top of that stack. Let's start with AI infrastructure. This is Microsoft's cloud computer for AI. We have 60 Azure regions running AI. We have data centers that are being purposely built or retooled for AI workloads. We are certainly driving a very robust market around GPU development and GPU acquisition as a result. Mark showed you this figure here, that we're in the midst of a kind of an accelerated Moore's Law moment as well, where a lot of the models, and by the way, OpenAI runs on Azure, are not only becoming faster, but becoming better in a very short order of time. Let's move up the infrastructure to foundation models. 那个这个是 Copilot 是副机长，微软说我不可以说，我说 Copilot 的基础模型。Now, these are the foundation models. These are the models that, whether it's small or large models, that drive the reasoning and the understanding and the overall interpretation, parsing of intent, formulation of responses inside your AI apps. We actually have, you can go online and see this, an Azure AI model catalog with 1,600, actually more than that, models from a wide variety of sources, some small, some large, in between. You can play around with these. You can run them both as a service. You essentially subscribe to the service with tokens and pay that way or use it that way. Or you can actually run them on your own infrastructure, your own cloud infrastructure within Azure. We call that model as a platform. So this is a big innovation we have at the model side. Let's move up the stack. Now we go to your data. This is where you extend the AI capabilities we have in the basic Microsoft 365 offering to include your databases, your backend systems, like what I showed with Air India, their flight operations system, or any other kind of data system, including, and Mark had mentioned this as well, on-premises capabilities. On-prem is relatively popular in this part of the world for good reason, and one of the things that I'm very excited about is how AI, and especially the expression of that through Copilot extensions, is bringing new life to legacy, it's a polite word, legacy on-prem systems that maybe are not as facile, not as easy to use, but by building in a Copilot front end, writing a little bit of description, a little bit of a manifest, plumbing in the API, all of a sudden now that moribund, kind of hard to use system is alive with AI. Part of that is also Microsoft's Intelligent Data Platform. We've added AI capabilities to all of our operational stores, whether it's Cosmos DB or SQL or Postgres. We're also integrating AI across the entire data stack, and Azure AI Search makes that possible to run RAG at any scale, delivering very highly accurate responses using our state-of-the-art retrieval systems. Later, I'll show you a little bit of code where we actually can show how you can incorporate Azure AI Search into your Copilot extension apps. All right, let's go to the level right below extensibility, and this is very important. This is orchestration. This is where we have the developer tooling. You know, we are 50 years in as a developer company, so we have a great tool chain around this. Things like GitHub, Copilot, and the newly announced Copilot workspace for GitHub. But also how we deal with orchestration, how we detect intent, how we orchestrate across different models and systems. This is critical. A lot of this comes out of the box with Copilot, but you can also, as with anything in this stack, bring your own at any level of the stack, should you choose to. Okay, so we've walked through the stack from bottom to top. Oh, sorry, this is GitHub Copilot Workspace. It's a very cool way where you can basically describe what you want to do with your app, and then it will actually build out the repo, build out the spec, pretty much do all the heavy lifting, all the repetitive tasks you would have had to do as a developer or a project manager. And that it's not available now. There is a private preview. There's a link there for that. It will be coming out in a few months. Okay, so we've gone up the stack. Now it's time to talk about building apps on top of that, specifically using Copilot Extensibility. Now, I do want to say in today's keynote here, I'm only going to talk for a few minutes about this. There are 3, 4, or 5 different sessions at DevDays this week, all about Copilot Studio, Copilot extensions, and other ways of integrating your capabilities into Copilot. So please look at the agenda and make sure you check those off and go to those, or at least catch the recording if you're double booked. Okay, now I first want to talk about what Copilot is before we talk about extensions. You all are probably very familiar with Copilot. It's our smart AI agent that sits not just in Teams, which is my favorite product, among many favorite products, but also across most or all of our user-facing apps, and where every week or every month we're adding more and more Copilot capabilities and Copilot surfaces. Copilot is grounded in web, of course. It's OpenAI based, right? It's using web knowledge, and you can even tell it to leverage the web knowledge in a specific way. But the key thing is it's grounded in your work data. It connects to your SharePoint and your OneDrive, to your Power BI, to your other systems within the digital estate of Microsoft 365 to enable you to query and reason, or have Copilot query and reason over that data. By the way, we announced recently something coming up called Team Copilot, which is actually not Teams, it's Team. It's the idea of bringing Copilot out of the personal context into the group context. So it joins your meetings, it suggests things that you need to finish up right before the meeting is over. It can participate in a team channel or chat. This is coming soon. It's a great app, great capability. We're actually using this a little bit internally. It's a real help. So when I'm in a chat, all of a sudden Copilot is there with me. Okay, but let's talk about extensions, because this is where the critical value comes for you as a developer. Copilot extensions, Copilot extensibility, is all about adding your actions and your knowledge into Copilot. Taking your business data, your apps and services, your workflows, your automation into Copilot as extensions, and coming soon, the ability to hand off so you can daisy chain from one Copilot to another. There are 3 general building blocks within Copilot extensions: connectors, plugins, and then your own Copilots or custom engine Copilots. There are sessions later this week that will get more into the details on those, but connectors are how you access data and services. Plugins are ways to build conversational interface around those services, and then your Copilots allow you to develop more nuanced or custom experiences based in Copilot. I'm going to show a few examples now, starting from low code to pro code. Low code is actually the lowest code. The least code is SharePoint. And this is a really neat way that you can take a few documents in a SharePoint site, and let me start the video there, and build a Copilot Studio Copilot right around those documents. So for example, you take an FAQ or some other content, and you build up a smart agent that can answer any question that people have about those documents. It's similar to GPT Builder, if you've used that before on OpenAI, but this is secure inside your company's digital estate. And there's 0 code being written here. Now let's go a little further along. We're going to stay in Copilot Studio, but we're going to go from 0 code to low code. And we'll pick up where we left off, but we're going to click that button at the bottom that says Add Additional Customization. And with the additional customization, we can pull in some third-party or on-premises or our own cloud data source, maybe a customer database or customer sales records. We can generate workflows. In fact, if you use Power Automate, you may be familiar with this user interface. It's the same technology used to generate the automation and workflows around Copilot Studio. The Copilot Studio Copilots that you create are then published in the store, the App Store. This is the store in Teams. It's the same store that's available in the Copilot, Microsoft 365 Copilot, and elsewhere. And all those extensions are right there. And as an admin, if you're an admin, you can, of course, manage access to that and set policies and everything around that, just like you would with any other custom app or third-party app in the store. As I said, there's some sessions today and later this week that will get much more into detail around Copilot Studio. The last example that I wanted to talk about is more on the pro code side. And here to show us one example of a more custom approach to building Copilot and AI apps is my friend JD, who's going to talk about some work that his company, Intumit, has done with custom apps. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Dan. Thank you so much. I was very surprised to know your Chinese is now professional. Thank you. My name is JD. I'm very happy to be here today to share our success case with all of you.
Okay, there you go.
Today, I'd like to mention a real case which we have implemented here in Taiwan, also in Japan. Now we call it a Smart City Copilot. Actually, I think all of us has encountered a situation, or it's quite usual. We call the call center, or we actually, in Taiwan, many government agencies, they always provide some sort of a government mailbox or the mayor hotline. They welcome you to call, citizen to call the government agency. Unfortunately, the service is not very responsive. In other words, that it may take like a few days before you receive the response. Now it's an AI era. People cannot wait. Everything has come up, the answer, they want to get the answer in real time. So if you take like 3 days to receive the message, it's like forever. So how AI is going to help? So we know that if you leave a message, you send an email to the governor mailbox, generally the general procedure here, standard procedure here is 3 days. Within 72 hours, you're going to get a response. How are we going to use AI to make it shorter? For example, we can shorten from 3 days to 3 hours. That's going to be great. So we come up with an idea and with an architecture, and through the Microsoft support especially, and the Microsoft team, we successfully implement this solution. As you can see here, it starts from the popular, super popular messenger here in Taiwan. Everybody uses Line Messenger. So if you provide this service through the Line channel, it's going to become more like, everybody, every citizen like to use it. And go all the way to you call, and then because, when you call the call center, the line is always busy, right? Or in the midnight, in the holiday, Saturday, weekends, probably no one pick up your phone. So what you can do is let the AI help you when there's no people available or people are busy. So if in that case, AI can always help you. And you can leave a message, voice message, and go all the way. The AI is going to find out the answer for you. Let's take a look at the video. Okay. Go ahead.
听不懂。听不懂。
Okay, suppose you call using your line. You call the
一直在施工，请加快完工，不然交通都很乱。
已经收到您的留言，服务人员将在收到语音后进行相关作业。本次通话即将结束，可以随时挂断。祝您顺心，再见。
So you leave a message. Okay, so the system, our system, gonna take your message, process it, and find the answer through the generative AI. All the technology are in line with Microsoft technology, AOAI, Copilot technology. You can see here to leverage Microsoft platform to provide these solutions. So this is the real case that we are now using both here in Taiwan as well as Japan. So you can find the answer, the system generate the answer. So to respond to the citizen when they have a request, AI is going to help find the answer in a much shorter time, especially when people are busy, when people really need the help. So this is what we do right now. Okay, so it turns out to be, by the way, also we use Teams, to do the guardrail, to check the content. So before the message is sent out, we're going to ensure the correctness and the accuracy of the answer. So because today is the DevDay, so I definitely have to talk a little bit about the technology. So, from beginning to the end, you're going to see this is a process that, going to go through a lot of different technologies from end to end. Customer make a call using a Line Messenger, which is not in the scope of Microsoft platform, but we have to integrate them, and we have to use Microsoft AI technology to provide the answer. And then later on, we're going to have to go through different, like RAG and a bunch of AI processes. And finally, we're going to make sure the answer is correct and send it to the customer, to the citizen, to the customer in timely fashion. So that's the case I share with you today. Well, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, JD. 好，我们刚刚看到了那个很有意思的客户服务的人工智慧的 APP， 谢谢 JD。他是真的我的美国 MIT 同学，谢谢 JD。好 ，OK， 英文。Let's keep going then. Sorry, let me leave that up. Sorry, if anybody wants to grab the particulars there. Next, I'm going to go through an example of a pro-code app very similar to the one I showed for Air India, which is a Copilot extension. And then we're going to have Alan from Pegatron come up and talk about how they've been using Copilot extensions, Copilot and integrate it into their smart factory R&D efforts. Okay. So the Copilot extensions, there are, just like we had, or very similar to what we had with the Copilot stack, there are some basic components from foundation models all the way up through workflow instructions. Every one of these can be tailored and customized to the degree that you as a developer want, and we have a number of different ways of approaching that. I'm going to show you one such example for an app that is a Copilot extension that is using an Azure Search backend and interpreting the user's intent and sending a parameterized query to that backend and then generating a natural language response. So let's look at the code just for a second. First, and obviously there's a lot more code than what I'm showing here, but I'll show you the key parts. First, you configure the model. In this case, we're using one of the standard Azure OpenAI endpoints, but you can choose other models as well, and as I said earlier, there's quite a few models available. Oops. Okay. Then you, let me make sure I got that right. Yes, okay. Then you do the RAG integration, and in this case, I'm actually, with just a few lines of code, I'm bringing in the Azure Search Service. You can see the vector search capabilities called out there. And again, every element in this stack can essentially be swapped out depending on how custom you want to get or what your particular use case is. Okay? Then we define the actions. These are just what the app does. And one of the realizations I've had the last 18 months or so is that the most important class I took to prepare me to be an AI developer had nothing to do with computer science. The most important class I took was English, or in Taiwan, be Chinese or Taiwanese. Writing good prompts, writing good descriptions, writing good manifests, documenting what your app does in a way that the LLM can understand it, can orchestrate it, can detect intent, is fundamental to success of the app. So I need to go thank my English teachers and not my CS teachers for the decent job they did training me to be an AI engineer. And I tell my kids as well, even though they kind of like programming, that they should actually do their Chinese homework instead. So, okay, so we define the actions. These are the things this app's going to do. It's creating and updating some data on the back end. We integrate in the back end system. We just have to call an API into some service we have sitting somewhere. And then let's bring it all together. Oh, before we bring it all together, we also design the UI. Now, Copilot is mostly back and forth with essentially a chat prompt. But we do have the ability to put adaptive cards, these rich data cards, into the flow so you can see them, see data rendered that way. And we can define that using JSON inside the code as well. And so now, let me see if I can play the video. We're going to ask about a product. Oh, I went a little fast. Let's try that again. We're going to ask about a product, and it's going to tell us, it's going to detect what we're asking about. It's going to query, determine the API call to make based on our natural language and mapping that based on the description we gave. And then it's going to fetch the data and bring it back to us in a nice format, a nice adaptive card. Again, all of those apps that we build are published in the store, whether they're internal or from our 2,300 plus apps online. You saw a great set of logos. I think it was in Sean's talk in the beginning. These are a few of those customers and partners who are in our Copilot ecosystem. Okay, so let's go to our last example here. We're going to have Alan come up from Pegatron and talk about smart factories and Copilot. Thank you, Alan.
Thank you, Dan. Since Dan's English, Chinese is very good, so I will say in Chinese.
Okay.
OK， 跟大家介绍一下，我是来自合作联合科技的 Alan。那我们的公司呢，主要在做的是制造业为主，因此呢，这个智慧制造呢，对 Pegatron 其实是非常非常的重要。那在过去10年的经验里面，我们打造出3大的系统。那第一个系统呢，就是 Pegat-IoT， 它用来串接工厂的资料，进行大数据分析。那第二个系统呢，因为有了大量的数据，有大量的 data， 所以呢，我们透过这样子的Pegat AI 的这个平 平台呢，我们建立了 AI agent， 我们在这部分呢导入 AI 进到工厂去。那同时呢，能够像有 Deep Learning 的技术，或者现在大家当红的 Gen AI 的技术，都在我们这个 Pega AI 平台上面进行导入。那当有了这样子的平台了之后呢，接下来我们透过了 Pegaverse， 针对于我们所有的工厂进行这个虚实整合的部分，那以希望能够达到很好的效益。那有了这些东西之后呢，我们能够做什么呢？那就看到下一页。OK， 整个工厂的流程上面大概分着3大的步骤。第一个步骤是设计，再来就是优化，最后当然就是每天的 operation。在设计的时候呢，我们打造了虚拟的工厂，让我们在还没有实体的时候就可以开始来做整合的规划。在 run up 的时候呢，我们透过我们的digital twins 来做这个 simulation， 然后呢，同时呢，当设备不足的时候，我们也可以很快速的在虚拟的世界里面去做模拟，去产生我们要的答案。当最后到了这个 daily operation 的时候呢，我们就透过这个 Gen AI agent 的方法，来让我们的系统能够更加的被快找到问题、解决问题。当然也包含了这个虚实的整合的部分，能够知道整个的设备的流程的部分的状况，然后最快呢，让我们的问题被消除这样子。那有这样子的工具之后，我们开始思考，我们怎么样 ？Next page。当有这样子的工具了之后呢，我们开始思考，我们这么大量的导入系统的时候，怎么样可以有很快速的方法，让我们的使用者除了像之前的透过 Web 啊，或者透过 Email 的方式，才能够得到我们的系统。那这样子呢，我们就当然就很棒的事情是找到了这个 Microsoft 的 Copilot Extension。当有 Copilot Extension 之后呢，我们可以很快速的让我们的系统给我们的使用者使用，也很快速的将这些 AI 能够导入到我们的系统上面去。那接下来呢，我们会介绍一个例子。这个例子呢，是我们每天在工厂会发生的状况。它每天的设备都会出问题，所以呢，每天的设备呢，我们都需要 monitor 它，需要进行维护。那这样子的部分呢，我们怎么样透过跟 Copilot 的整合，能够让我们的系统工程师、设备工程师可以更快的解决他所有的问题。
Virtual SOP evolution through Microsoft Copilot. The integration of Pegaverse's Virtual Factory and Pega AI Agent with Microsoft Copilot provides comprehensive and streamlined management and operation. How can this be executed? When equipment anomalies occur, the Virtual Factory also receives feedback and directly notifies engineers or relevant personnel through Copilot. VSOP execution demonstration. First, user can find the corresponding virtual factory through Pegaverse and then identify the equipment with abnormal information, obtaining its status and information. Next, the user can also use Copilot and the virtual factory to get the equipment's error code and VSOP and prepare to start maintenance. Through the vivid and realistic VSOP, users can intuitively and clearly understand the operating procedures for each step. Without requiring a dedicated operator, every user can follow VSOP to complete fault diagnosis and maintenance. After the issue is resolved, the system will automatically send out the information. Additionally, users can directly query OEE status through Copilot, and the synergy between Pegaverse and Copilot brings more intuitive and integrated management.
Okay. Oh, okay.
好，也非常开心可以今天可以跟各位进行这边的分享。那如果各位在会后有任何的问题的话，也欢迎透过这样子的联系方式找到我们。谢谢 ，Thanks Dan。
好，谢谢阿文。我们刚刚看到了很有意思的精明的工厂人工智慧的 APP Copilot 的 APP。我想这个是世界的第一个精明的工厂的 Copilot APP， 谢谢 Pega， 谢谢 Alan。然后我们 we have to finish, so I will go to the end. 谢谢你们听到我的keynote， 我们的 keynote， 谢谢 Alan， 谢谢 JD。然后我的家人，我们3个礼拜去移民美国，然后我会想念台湾，会想念台湾的菜，美国的台湾菜不好吃，会想念台湾的美景，很想念台湾的人，我的同事，我的朋友们，每一个人。然后我希望去年我回来看到你们做很有意思的人工智慧 Copilot 的 APP。好，谢谢你们。
Thank you very much, Dan. 谢谢，再次谢谢 Dan， 还有另外2位讲师哦，谢谢 JD， 也非常谢谢 Alan。那么我们接下来呢，要进入到我们下一个场次哦。So our next session, we will be focusing on power the next generation of AI apps with database at scale anywhere. We will hear from 2 speakers, the first of which Mr. Asad Khan, who is Vice President and also General Manager of SQL at Microsoft, while our next speaker is Mr. KB Badu-Antwi, Principal Group Product Manager at Microsoft. 我们一起来欢迎2位。
Thank you. So last week I was in Seattle doing a keynote at Visual Studio Live with my friend Bob. And we did a fun thing. We went around the audience and we asked one question. What do you think about generative AI? And they all said the same thing. We are super excited about Copilot, about ChatGPT. And we said, what about building your own? And they said, why would we build it, or how will we build it? I think the why part you might have heard from Mark, Dan, JD, and others who showed the power in terms of how you can go and optimize your own data for ChatGPT. But just to highlight a few of the things. The first is that the large language models are built on the vast majority of data which is on the internet. That does not mean it is trained on your specific data. So it will not be precise if you ask a question about your specific products or your location where you are or anything that your specific company is doing. It will not be tailored. It will not be as fast because obviously it has not been grounded. It will not be as intelligent about the questions you ask, and it will not be as interactive. So in this session, I want to teach how you can use the power of databases to build your own ChatGPT applications. Before we go there, let me ground you, no pun intended, on few concepts on the Gen AI. The first thing that Mark also talked about is the prompt. When you go and talk to the ChatGPT or Copilot, you give a prompt. The prompt could be the context that you want to set. I'm writing an application for my admission, or I'm trying to write my resume for an interview. That helps the model know the context in which you are asking the question. The other thing that you might have heard a lot is the RAG pattern, the retrieval augmented generation. It is a simple concept. You go to a data source, you retrieve the information which is specific to your specific scenario, you augment it with a large language model, and it will give you more generative AI when you ask any questions. The thing is that prompt plus RAG is a super powerful concept. And especially when you use the high-value data that is stored in your database, let's say SQL, it can be a very powerful tool for your organization. And the good thing is that you can build on top of it, you can do the fine-tuning, you can do the grounding. And the thing is that since it is built on top of the database, it is continuously getting updated as the changes are being built, coming in. The next concept that I want to teach is about the vectors. You might have heard a lot about vectors, vector embedding. So before we get into the demos, let's first understand why vectors. For so long, we have been using the terms in our own languages to define the thing that we want to capture. It might be in English, in Taiwanese, whatever language you want. And then we have trained the systems like natural language or the full text search in SQL to go and search on top of that. It is great, but it is not very efficient because the computers don't think like that. The computer thinks in numbers. So when you are doing a full text search, we are still trying to match the word that you gave us. And in most of the cases, we try to do an exact match. If there is a misspelling, we won't be able to give you the right result. But numbers don't work like that. The numbers are mathematical, which means you can apply formulas on top of it. You can use cosine and other regex expressions on top of it. Now, if you go and ask, look at the vector for dog and cat, and you look at the numbers, they will be very similar, which means if you do a cosine, it will show the similarity. This changed the game because, first of all, these are optimized on how machines work. Secondly, you are not doing exact matches. You are letting the computer decide in terms of the distance between the two vectors. Okay, so before I start into the demo, obviously the ecosystem you need to go and understand. It starts all the way in terms of where the platforms is, like in this case, let's say Azure. It is about the AI models. These are the language models, the APIs that are exposed on top of that data. On the right side, you see the data itself, which is your own instance of, let's say, SQL. And then you build the application on top of that. One thing which I'm asked a lot is which database or which data store is best to use? Should we go and use AI-specific data stores that are coming up? The thing is that the AI has to come to the database that you use today because these databases have been built over multiple decades of innovation. They have the security, the familiarity, reliability integrated, and they are scalable. So in this case, when we added the vector support on SQL, we saw the usage go up exponentially because the data is already there. The developer is already familiar with it. They are already have built their application on top of these databases. So let me show you two quick examples. In one, I will only use SQL as the engine and build my entire app. And in the second, I will use the ecosystem of Azure. Okay, the first one. Since I'm visiting Taiwan, I thought, like, let's try something local, Badu-Antwi. And I want to write an application that can help me find the best place to go and eat it. Now, the thing is that as a developer, some of the things will be easy for you to understand, which is that I will look for the word Badu-Antwi it's a desert. I will look in the city Taipei. I want to not go too far, so I will put a statement about the distance. I will go and say I want to eat it in a local place since I'm in Taiwan. I don't know if McDonald's is offering me, I don't want to go there. I want good reviews because if I want to have a good experience. And the last is that it should not be based on a single review. It should have a lot of reviews. Very simple. This is how you write an app. Now, I have a SQL schema. And the question is that how do I go and write this query? Some of these things you have learned over many years. I will use the equality search where the city equal. I will go and use the inequality in terms of the reviews should not be less than, or rating should not be less than 4. I will again use enough of the reviews. I will go and look for the local places that might be stored in a JSON format. I will go and use the geospatial capability of SQL Server to say that the distance should not be more than a certain radius that I define. Now comes the interesting part. Will I do an exact text search, or can I do something interesting over here? Can I do a similarity search? And I will show you the difference in terms of both. So let's first look at our data. So I did a count on the number of the businesses and the number of the reviews. I have a database of little over 200,000, and I have reviews which are more than 8 million. Good set of data, right? Now let's start simple. The first thing I will do is that I will search for the city, as I mentioned. I will look for the reviews which has more than 4 stars, and I will run the query. Great, I am getting a lot of answers, but again, this query is not complete. So now I will go and build further. Now let's go to add the next parameter. So now I have the city. Now I will go and add the category, and I'm using the location. So in the location, I picked 500,000 as the number because I'm looking for 5K as in the radius in which I'm gonna look. So again, this shows the power of using an existing database because geospatial is already available in SQL. Great. So I have made more progress. Next, what I'm gonna do is that I will go and search for the I will go and search for the word biobing. Now it's a full text search. The interesting thing, in 8 million reviews, I did not even find a single answer. Then I said, okay, let me relax the search, and what if there is a space in between? I found a single review. Now that is the challenge of doing an exact match when you are doing a search on the text, irrespective of which language you are using. So now let's use the power of vectors. What I will do first is I will write the sentence for which captures the intent. A place where to get the best mango biobing. And intentionally, I even misspelled that one. What I will do is that I will go and call OpenAI and convert it into a vector. Now, you can see that I called the OpenAI and I have the vector form. Now, I don't understand this, but the computer will, because now it has all been changed into numbers, capturing the entire sentence, not just that word. Then I already have the reviews embedded in my SQL server, and all of those reviews, I just showed one as with a specific ID, are also in vector form. Great, now I have something to play around. I used my intent, captured it in a vector form. I looked at all the reviews and used the vector form for that to store as well. Now let's rewrite the query. So now a misspelled question sent to the same database in the query form. This is using the latest vector support that we added along with the functions like vector distance. Now I'm just doing the similarity search based on the distance. And now you will see that it changes the game because now it is not doing an exact match. So let's run this and order it by descending orders. Now I'm seeing a lot of results. The reason being is that if you go and look in the comments, it is capturing a lot of information. It knows that if it is saying shaved ice, or if it is using some of like how it is built in terms of like whether it is somebody said ice cream and condensed milk, and in this case I said mango as a fruit. All lovely things when you put together. Obviously, it will be really tasty. All of this is now coming together, and I can see the change. Now let me write the final query, and as you can see, I'm not looking for the reviews. I'm looking for the businesses and where they are. And now I'm using both vector and JSON form and writing the query as CTE. So it is easy to pass that in, and I will capture the reviews in the JSON form. That will help me as a developer to write the application. So now, as you can see, I got the results back. It has the information. It talks about the specific reviews that were talking about the sweet dish I want to eat. and I can go and look at it in the how it is capturing those reviews in the JSON form. And now it is much easier as a developer for me to go and build this application. So again, very, very simple, shows the power of why vectors are being used everywhere and why people are using databases with vector embeddings in there, because it has totally changed how we were thinking about full text search, how we were trying to do any application, and doing the similarity searches can be done now in a very different way. Okay, so this was my first demo. Let me do one more. And this time I will use the power of OpenAI, OpenAI search, and build an interactive ChatGPT on top of that data. And again, I will again use the data which is stored in my own SQL server. Before I do that, let me show you what I'm doing over here. The first thing I will do is I will go and define an index, which you have been doing for a long time in SQL, but this time it will be a vector index. So I take my data, and in this case, think of it, I have a product information. I define an index in Azure AI Search. Then on top of that, I use the OpenAI service, and then on top of it, I build my application, and now I can go and do interactive chat. I will do all of this without writing any code. But in the end, I will show you how with 2 clicks, you can go and deploy it as an application. And the good thing is, as I mentioned before, it is using the power of SQL change data tracking, which means that if SQL data changes, my index is automatically updated in Azure Search, which means that if as the data is changing, your application on top of it is always responding based on the latest information. Okay, so again, as I mentioned, I have one single index defined. And as you would expect from the data itself, it has the regular columns you will expect in a database, which captures information about my product name, the list, the brand itself, all the description in text, all of that. But now you will see one interesting thing, embedding. Now I'm using the same power, the power of vectors, and I use the information about my products and storing it as vectors. Now, as I mentioned before, I'm using the Azure Search, and it allows you to go and define and fine-tune this index in multiple ways, whether the dimensions you want to pick or the size of these index. So I just use the default in this case. Next, what I will do is that I go to Azure OpenAI service. You see the option in the middle, which is bring your data. So in this case, I have my own data, which is in SQL. So I will go and pick this option. I had just defined an index. So first I will go and pick the service name, which is the Azure AI Search. I pick the instance that I created. I picked the index that I just showed you. Then I said add vector search. This is an option. Then it said that whether I want to go and do the custom mapping. This is optional, but if I do the custom mapping, you will see how my answers are even more precise. So I'm just now telling where is my content, which columns of my SQL captures the content, which has the title information, so where to pick the title information, and similarly a few other questions. Now the next I will do is that what type of search you want to do on top of it. I want to do a hybrid search. Why would I give up the power of SQL full text search information, but I want to add the vector search on top of it. Now my chat playground is ready, literally in 5 minutes. You can do it right now. You can go and use your SQL. You can connect your Azure Search AI. You can go to Azure OpenAI, point to that index, and this will give you that playground. Now, what I just did is the RAG pattern, because I retrieved the information from a SQL server, augmented it to the large language model which Azure gives you, and now you can generate more intelligent answers. The next I will do is prompt engineering, because now I will go to this model and I will tell what I'm looking for. So I'm saying you are an AI assistant that helps people shop for products. Give as many details as possible about each product, such as the price. Whenever you respond, please format your answers to make it very readable, including bullet points. This is the example of prompt. Now I did the reg, I did the prompt. Now let's ask a question. I can ask a very simple question that I'm on a tight budget but need to find things for my living room. And now this is using the information stored in my own SQL server, but also using the power of large language models. So now you can see the answer which I got. And right now, if I go in the backend and do an update query on SQL, that information will also be included in here as I ask the same question again. So again, super easy in terms of how you took the data that you have, which is related to your own company, and it will show you all the references, so that if you want to go and improve it further, you know how we are retrieving that information, so you can go back and further fine-tune this model for your application. Okay, so now what I will do is I will change. So basically, I'm just asking more questions to that one. But next, what I will go and I will change the prompt. So in this case, what I did was that I said, now don't answer me as a user of your products. Think that you are giving me information to build marketing material. So use the same information. I just changed the prompt. The rec pattern did not change, the data source did not change, the large language model did not change. Now, if I ask the question, the model knows that the prompt has been updated, and now if I ask the question, it will give me a different format of answers. So let's run this one, and I will ask a very simple question. So now I'm saying create an advertisement as we can send to customers who are on the tight budget and want to make their living. So now if you see the response has totally changed because the rec pattern did not change, but the prompt changed. So again, it shows the power of how Microsoft and Azure has made it so simple for you as developers to use the power of generative AI. And the great thing is that you don't have to start from zero. Today, we have 13 million SQL databases in cloud. We have 249,000 billable customers who are on SQL. They're all enabled today to go and use the power of generative AI. So now the thing is that I want to now call my friend KB and talk about little bit about the responsive AI. And by the way, before I go there, I just wanted to show. Sorry, I'm going in the wrong direction. I will let you. It goes in the back. Okay. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to talk about is that there is a lot of concerns and questions that we get in terms of, oh, you are doing large language models, you are taking my data and sending it somewhere. I think the important thing that I want to make sure you understand is that Microsoft is the most responsible when it comes to using your data, your enterprise data, and we want to show you how we take it so seriously when we empower you to build your own generative AI applications. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Asad. So I'm going to spend about 5 minutes walking you through how to operationalize AI responsibly. So throughout this presentation, I'll be talking a lot more about how you'll be able to do that. And then there's a lot of people today, and also the rest of this week, we'll be talking a lot more about responsible AI. So when you think of responsible AI at Microsoft, it is not something that's done by one team. There's multiple teams that are involved in the process of coming up with ways that we can responsibly innovate. So when you think of it, it's a three-legged stool. There's research, there's policy, and there's engineering. And from a research standpoint, they're looking at how best we can take a lot of the exciting technology out there and build it in a way that's safe for people to leverage. Then there's a policy team, which is Office of Responsible AI, which then provides guidance. And then engineering, which is going to be the focus of my talk today, is how do you take both of those pillars that I briefly touched on to allow us to build into the tools that we have available that will allow you to build agents or copilots. So when you think of how you have interacted with AI that comes from Microsoft, it could be either through a copilot or building a copilot of your own. And Mark did touch on that a little bit earlier, where he said there is ways that we do it with a copilot that we have at Microsoft, or bringing your own language model for you to build your own custom copilot. And Azure is really at the underpinning for all of this, right? We have a lot of tools that have spent a lot of time with the Office of Responsible AI and a lot of research to figure out how best we can provide, the capabilities that we have in, for example, Copilot, in ways that you can build your own as well. And there are over 53,000 organizations that trust Azure today to do AI. So you can see there's a lot of innovations that we've come up with internally that we're bringing to our customers that either that can be implemented through Copilot extensibility that my colleague Dan Stevenson touched on, or through building your own custom Copilot using either a small language model or large language model. So responsible innovation is not something that is done just once. It's an iterative process. And what's critically important is for you to define your use case. As Mark touched on earlier, right, it's important to understand what type of AI application that you're building. Is it going to leverage a large language model? Is it going to leverage a small language model? And the way that we advise that this is done from a responsible AI perspective is what we call red teaming. So that is looking at ways that you can build your AI application and test it to ensure that it's built safely. The next step is measuring for different risks, right? Because again, depending on the use case, if it's more of a general use case and you're using a large language model that's more general purpose, you open up the surface area to various attacks. And measuring and mitigation are done hand in hand, and it's a way that allows us to really do it in a way that will allow you to deploy a model or an application that can operate in a way that allows you to mitigate those risks. I'll be touching on the types of risks that I introduced with generative AI, and grounded outputs and errors. So think of this as, you provide your data, or you provide your information, and the response it provides is very different from what you provided. And that could potentially be dangerous. Think of a medical application that you build. And if it produces results that maybe omit very important information, that could be very costly towards a patient. So it's important that we ground it in the truth based on the information that you provided. Then the next risk is jailbreaks and prompt injection. So this is, think about putting harmful code, right, into the language model, and that being returned that could potentially compromise your data estate, your environment that you're building your application. And then another one is copyright infringement. Think of the output that's produced that is using copyrighted information that may not be allowed. Your system needs to be designed in such a way that it has safety to detect that and allow us to not produce that result. And then there's an area that we're still trying to figure out. It's called manipulation and human-like behavior. Because when you think of a language model, it is a system. It's not a human being. But it's a dialogue that's occurring between you and the system, and sometimes it may seem like it is, coming back from a human. So it's important that, we monitor that so that it doesn't cross boundaries that could potentially be problematic. So we have risk mitigation layers, and layers that you see here there's no, layer that's better than another. It's done in such a way that they all are dependent on each other. So again, it's super critical that you pick the right model, right? Again, whether it's a SLM, an LLM, dependent on the use case that you're trying to solve for. Now, I touched on it a little bit earlier. What safety system are you building in place to ensure that the output that's produced is well-grounded? And then having a system and message grounding system, again, goes back to the example I provided, which was What about if you're not allowed to use copyrighted information, right? Is your system intelligent enough to not produce that result that could potentially result in infringement of copyright? And the third one, and the fourth one rather, is based on user experience, right? Like this is an emerging area where we're really trying to figure out like how best we can do this in a way that it doesn't cross the boundaries and has human-like manipulation. I'm being told that I'm done with my talk, but I tried as best as I could to get responsible AI at a high level described to you, but there's going to be a lot of sessions throughout the week where we'll be able to dive deep and provide you with a little bit more in-depth use cases on how to responsibly innovate. Thank you so much.
Thank you once again to Asad and also KB for your insights. 那我们接下来呢，要进入到今天在午餐之前的专题演讲。接下来的专题演讲呢，是由花凯龙所带来的未来安全之路，微软在 AI 时代的承诺。那么花凯龙是台湾微软的首席技术长。So our next keynote before lunch is going to focus on security in the era of AI, Microsoft's commitment to a secure future by Kai Hua, CTO of Microsoft Taiwan. Please help me welcome Mr. Hua.
大家好，那在午餐之前的演讲其实都有点挑战，尤其我们 schedule 有一点点小小 delay 的时候。好，那今天呢，我要跟大家分享的是说，其实，在 AI 这个议题里面，其实我们在过往的1-2年的时间点，看到 AI 进步非常的快，但是在进步这么快的同时，我们也看到的是说，在治安的议题上面，其实它越来越是一个辛苦的一个挑战。那我们第一个，我们来看的是，我们近期大家都在讨论生成式 AI， 那但是我们稍微也在往后退一